Hello everybody, Blue Dooley here, and today I'm actually going to walk you through how I have all of the settings and lights and sounds and servos programmed in to the USM-RC-3 from Beier Electronics. And I also have the SFR-1 up on screen as well, because there's one major difference between the two, but otherwise all the programming and stuff is pretty similar in both systems. Also going to show you that you can record your own sounds to put on the trucks or the cars or the boats or the planes or whatever you put the kit in. Up above me is a Instagram photo because was too lazy to download the photo from my phone to put it on the screen. As you can see, there's actually a wire with a little blue blinking light right there. So that cable actually is an adapter to plug the sound kit that's in the truck into the computer, so you don't have to take the SD card out of the sound kit. And actually, after I get the Red Cat done, I'll probably leave it alone after I finally get set on what engine sounds and stuff I want. But I might pick up a second cable because I want to leave the cable in the grand hauler, just because the semi trucks are a lot more involved to get the body off instead of the hauler, which just has 4 body clips underneath it, and the cab can lift up out of the way, as you can see. Okay, so this particular one here is for the USM-RC-3. The one above it is the SFR sound teacher. And you can actually see I have the I have what's called Grand N14 Cummins, is the save file for the sounds, the lights, and all the other programming I have on that. And then on the USM, it's hauler, because that's just what I titled the sound effects with, or the save file for the whole project. You can save, that way you can set it up, save it, and then maybe if you want to have 2 different settings, you can have a different save file that you can just upload to the truck later. Now, when you purchase the either kit, the SFR or the USM, from Bob over Hobby Concepts, it actually came with 2 USB flash drives that have the sound teacher software. It also had a version of Audacity, which is what you can use to record sounds. And then it also comes with a ton of sounds already on the memory stick that you can just kind of scroll through. I'll show you those. And then just select the sounds you want. So this is the configuration because I just brought it up so you can see the difference. And on the USM, it's general engine sound, and on the SFR, general, and then speed controller, because the SFR has a speed control unit in it. I'm not actually using it in the semi truck at the moment, or the grand hauler, but I bought this one so when I eventually get my belt trailer built, that I'm gonna have to start over again because I wasn't happy with it. But the sound teacher's ESC will run the motor for the belt. That way I can put the grand hauler in neutral, essentially, throttle up, and while the drive motor will just spin not in gear, the sound will increase like a high idle or whatever I set the throttle at, and that'll run the belt, and it'll rev up the engine, so it sounds like you're actually using a wet kit. And I have not messed with this at all. So there's speed control with cruise settings, speed control with braking settings, emergency stop possible, bell armature motor, don't even know what that is, inverting motor, inverting servo, load regulations, on, off, light, medium, dirt, inertia settings. I'm guessing you can change how quickly it speeds up or slows down. But then you get over here to engine sound. And I have all my sounds set really low because I didn't like the way it starts at 100% and then increases the speed of the file, of the playback, and that's what makes it rev up. And to me, it sounds a little too weird if it gets too fast. So I dropped them all down on both the grand hauler and the hauler, the 53. I'm going to confuse people if I just call them both a hauler. So that's kind of what we're going to tinker with on the 53, is adjusting these sound volumes. Both of them have an SD card, and tells you how big they are, and then how much of a percentage you're using of the memory. So we will go over here to engine sounds. So I'm going to use the USM program to kind of show you how you can set up gear changes and things. And then we'll go over here to the sound teacher for the grand hauler, the SFR-1, and we'll kind of play a few sounds. So all of the sounds in this load profile, or in this program, I recorded with Audacity. You just add a stereo track, hit record, and then play whatever you want to set, whatever you want it to record, and then that's how you get it. And you do need to set it up so it's recording. In this case, my speakers, you could have it record from the microphone directly, depending on what you're doing and how good a quality your microphone is. For instance, if you had a laptop and a good microphone, you could actually go out to your driveway and record your personal vehicle's engine starts, stop, idle, all that stuff. Just kind of depends on how fancy you want to be. Now, the grand hauler from Tamiya comes with scale 10-inch stacks. And I have a paid mod file for American Truck Sim that has that larger exhaust note in the sound files already. So I kind of went through, recorded some sounds in this, and then chopped them up, saved them as what's listed over here. So this is an N14 high horsepower with a 10-inch exhaust, basically. Then idle. Now I tried to record a longer idle file because I thought I had seen somewhere or had heard somewhere that a longer file is better for all of the things, but I don't think that's actually the case. So as you notice here, N14 loaded launch, what I did was put the truck in the video game up in a very high gear, like 6th, and then start rolling the truck forward. So it actually bogged the engine down a little more noticeably than if I was in a lower gear, just so I had a little better sound. Now, vehicle stop is basically from motion to a stop. Engine shutdown. Now, you can also have this turn on and output while playing cold start or warm start. You can have it do an output sequence for servos. And then you can adjust the volume. And it actually tells you how long each sound file is. Now, the only one I have turned down on the grand hauler is the reverse beep alarm. For obvious reasons. It's annoying as hell. So for driving, I recorded some audio. Not really happy with it, but what I need to do is actually record the truck's RPM at a lower RPM, because what happens with the sound files is it plays the same sound file no matter how fast you're going. It just adjusts that playback speed to make it sound like you're accelerating or slowing down. And I have it at 6 seconds, which would probably get away with a much shorter file. And these are all the same. So it basically, the way I have it set up currently is pretty much the same as I do in the USM for the 53 hauler, is it starts at 60% playback speed and then goes up to 91% playback speed in this case. And I thought that would make it sound a little better, but at least on the 53, it sounds a little weird. So I think I'm going to have to start the playback speed at 100% and then go up from there. And it actually makes a much sharper increase from playback speed than what I have here. You can also adjust where the shift points are. Again, you can really, in both of these programs, you can really tailor everything to be exactly the way you want it. Now, in the hauler, I have a 4-speed because it's a 53. And both programs, no matter which, will do only up to 5. 0-point deadband, I believe, is in milliseconds. I have no idea. I haven't messed with it. 1 motor for engine sound, 2 motors for engine sounds. So if you have a vehicle that would have 2 engines, you can have them have 2 actual simulated engine sounds. Speed controller has a braking feature. Threshold for slowdown, again, I believe is probably milliseconds. Fast switching, not actually sure what fast switching does. Turn on engine sound automatically by motion and turn off after 10 seconds in stationary position. That would be more of if you don't have a lot of channels on your radio and you still want sounds, but you might not have enough dedicated channels on the radio to just have the sound function be a switch by itself. So you can give it a little tap on the throttle. It'll start the engine and then you can drive. Time for warm start. RPM change when triggering function. Engine sound RPM change 20%. So you can change how much it, like I said, way too many things, I think, for beginners. Now, I also have, because I've been playing around with the system to learn how to record files, how long they need to be, how loud they need to be. So I actually got some Jake breaks. So in theory, if I understand settings right, because it'll actually play forward speeds and then it'll switch to the slowdown speeds when you go to slow down or you let off and just coast. So it'll actually downshift. So it'll play the Jake brake till a point, then it'll go up to the faster playback and slow down. So if I understand it correctly, when you let off throttle in the grand hauler, it'll Jake brake down to a stop. If I have it set up right. Now, engine sound 2, again. Additional sounds are, you can add so many sounds. It's unreal. So, and then you can adjust the volume of all those sounds, as well as have it play it once to completion, once immediate stop, loop it immediate stop, have it trigger lights and servos and adjust volumes. So and since this is a sound file from the USB drive, it's labeled in German. And then of course you got your horns. So you can have pretty much 15 sounds and then loops. I'm not sure how to use those. But we go over here to the 53. I could probably have this just be one file, but I'm not 100% certain. So lift brims is the airbag sound when you see the lowrider or the 53 hauler drop or raise. And then I also put Godzilla on here because Godzilla. Now the airbag sound I put down to 30%, which, again, I'm not thrilled with the volume on that. I could turn it up, but I might leave it where it's at. Because depending on what other sounds the unit's playing at the same time, like if the engine's idling, the airbags are going to be quieter than the engine. Random sounds. Random sounds are just that. So since the Grand Hauler's a semi-truck, it has air brakes, it has an air compressor, and that is not sure what the German translation is, but to me that sounds like the air dryer releasing air pressure to blow the water out or whatever. And since the 53 is on airbags, same sound. And you can adjust, again, volume. I think I might actually make that just a little bit louder. So go 40% volume. Transfer data, because the truck's already plugged in. Adjusting the sound was that easy. Additional sounds for the start and loop. For instance, if you have a tracked vehicle, there are somewhere, I don't know what they're labeled as because I haven't really played around with all the sounds, but you can actually have the sound kit make the track squeak as the tracks move. And you probably have it run hydraulic whine as you're moving buckets and stuff, especially if it's not hydraulic powered unit. If it's just all electric servos and stuff, you can make it sound like it has hydraulics. Yeah, random sounds are like air dryers. Maybe you just want it to squeak randomly. Things like that. Also in the engine sounds is the brake sound, the clicking for the turn signal, which is annoying. I hate it, so that's why it's not in here. Now, this is again the USM, which is in the 53 hauler. So these are all sounds from the USB drive. And I have pretty much all the engine sounds. It's 60%, and I turn this backup beeper down to 15%. And then again, 60% volume on forwards or speed up, slow down. And they're only like 906 milliseconds or hundredths of a second. It's kind of weird how this works. But again, you can change so many things. And also, both of them have a wave player. I have nothing loaded in the Grand Hauler yet. I have 5 different songs loaded up in the 53. I have the Snoop Dogg and the Doors, Riders of the Storm, from Need for Speed Underground 2. The song Lowrider by the band War, because Lowrider. Manic Mechanic from ZZ Top, which came out in 79, I believe. 100 Million Miles is by Monster Magnet. And then Pipeline is by the guitarist Dick Dale, who pretty much kind of is the father of speed and loud. Not going to play any of them here. I have all of them set at 100. And since some of them are louder than others, I could actually, like Manic Mechanic and Pipeline are both way louder than Snoop Dogg and War. So I could adjust those. You can load up to 22 tracks depending on how big the file is. This is a wave player. You can't load MP3s, and it has to be at a very specific hertz. And then configuration is where you obviously configure everything. So what we'll do is we'll take the start sound, go up to 100. We'll take this one up. I wish you could type in a percentage. I think we'll call it 132. Just go very fast, so we'll just barely lift that up. Now again, I'm shifting. Because you can change any of them. So I kind of made first gear short, and then second gear a little longer, then third gear a little longer still. But I actually wanted fourth to be the longest gear, so it takes longer for that file speed, playback speed to speed up. And transfer. Uploads configuration. And then you can just go over here, file, save. Saves all the settings I just changed. So it's sort of intuitive, and some things are sort of not intuitive. That's kind of why I wanted to make the video. And again, I think my biggest problem with sound kits is I didn't know you could adjust the playback speed. So I think that was my biggest problem, is the playback speed gets so fast, it sounds off. It doesn't sound like there's a load on anything. It just sounds like the engine just revs up in neutral. Set these however you want. You can, again, single speed, 1, 2 speed, 3 speed, 4 speed, 5 speed. You can also do speeds backwards for like the semi trucks. Depending on transmission types, you can have 2 and 3 speeds in reverse. Now, if you have something like an Unimog, you can have all of the speeds work regardless of which direction you're going. I believe in the Unimogs, it's just a gear that puts the whole gearbox in reverse, so you have first through whatever, forwards and backwards. Dozers and loaders, I believe, are the same way. You can have forklifts, same way. So again, you can really kind of just play around with it and really dial in how you want it. And then also, both of them, I didn't realize this, but you can do a sound simulation and actually move this speed forward and backwards, and that'll play through all the sounds. So we can turn the engine on and tell you what the current sound is playing. Not really sure why the idle and the RPM change are so drastically different on this. This particular sound, I guess I turned it off, is labeled in the system as Auto Ford F350 V8. And then you can also do your additional sounds. So that's truck lowering or raising. So it'll play it as the sound kit's actually going to play it. So if you don't like how things sound as you're sliding back and forth, you can adjust them in this. Obnoxious, so we'll quit messing around with that. Now, random sounds, you can have up to 8 random sounds. How much time passes before it plays the sound and how much the maximum time it plays the sound. So somewhere between 1 and 250 seconds, it'll play that sound. Now, going back to like things like tracks, you don't want it to play that while it's just sitting there. So you can change when it plays the sound. So I have, of course, the air brake dryer blowing off, both static, because it'll do that when the engine's when you're just standing there, and in motion, and only when the engine's running, because obviously the air dryer isn't going to release air if the engine's not running. You can tell it to don't play 2 random sounds at the same time. I have it always enabled. You can actually have it set so you turn it on from your remote. And then here's where it really gets impressive. And I don't have anything in here because the Spectrum DX5 Rugged doesn't have S-Bus. The Fly Sky IF10 is a 10-channel radio, and it has S-Bus. So you can have 16 props, essentially, with S-Bus without needing full 16 channels. It's kind of weird how it works. So prop 1 is dedicated to engine sounds. Now, channel 7 I have as prop 2. Channel 1, I forget what it's on. Prop 4 is channel 6, which I'm actually setting up so the grand hauler also is going to have a lift axle on it. And by running that through the S-Bus, I don't have to have the servos plugged into the receiver. I can plug the servos into the sound unit. So when I activate the lift axle, it'll also play the sound of the lift axle going up or airing down. And then lights and sounds are on 8 and 9, I believe. We can check out prop channels here in a little bit. Activate S-Bus. Digital switchers. I have no idea what any of this is. I don't have a radio capable of it. So prop channels. We'll go here on both. So yeah, on grand hauler, prop 3 is my turn the engine on, turn the engine off, and the horn. And this is kind of where it's really interesting what these can do, because you can have so many functions off of one channel. You don't need as many channels to run a lot of stuff. Dusty. So on the main 4 channels, the stick has, this one doesn't have a throttle respring. I guess I should put it over here so you can see it. And that's because this is an aircraft radio, not a surface radio, which now they're all 2.7 gigahertz or whatever, so it doesn't matter. But this is going to be the throttle for the truck, so I can just kind of throttle it up and then just steer with this stick. That way I can film and drive one-handed. So what this is meant for, it's like a 4-channel radio. So static positions means when it just stays in put in the channel. So you got neutral, B, A, neutral, C, D. So you can have, doesn't do anything in neutral. So if I hold it here, if I just bump it up, which is actually not this channel, but it's easier to show you on this radio. So if I bump it up, that'll turn the engine sounds on or off. If I go down for quickly, that'll do the horn. Prop sound, This is going to be my lift servos, which are actually just going to be on a 2-position switch, which is why it's static. And then in position memory, so you flip it, it goes the milliseconds, the servo raises up, it plays the sound, flip the switch the other way, does the other function. I don't know if that's the switch I'm going to use, but that's just kind of how it works. All right, so the light switches I actually have on a momentary. And quick taps turn them on. You hold it a little bit, that's how you turn them off. At least that's how I have it set up. And then the light bar is also on just a 2-position switch. Turns the light bar on, turns the light bar off. And channel revision, I'm guessing, is reverse the channel. You can adjust how long in milliseconds. That's how crazy it is. How long anything needs to be in what position to change how fast it does. So like on a regular 4-channel, if you leave it someplace, it'll be static. If you do it for a short second, like just up and back, that's short position. If you hold it a little bit and then back off, that's long position. So you can fill every one of these with something. So yeah, we'll bump it over here to the hauler. Again, prop 1 is the engine sounds, and that's tied into the throttle. Since this is an S bus, I'm limited to how many props I can have, just because of channels. So prop channel 3 on 53 is static, plays the sound, and long in position actually moves the servo. And I did it that way because if I did it the other way, the servo would start moving before the sound played. And I actually kind of wanted it to play the sound and then move the servos. So, because airbags are kind of slow depending on how big of a valve you have and how big your lines are. Prop 4 is both my lights and my engine on off and the horn. Because again, you can hold them in position short or long periods of time. So quick clicks on the button on the radio, turns the lights on. Click it down, hold it a bit, that turns it off. And on the 53, because I only have a limited number of channels, the light bar is not on its own channel. So the light bar is turned on and off with regular light switch. The engine on, off, and horn are on that same switch, but the other way. So quick click turns the engine on and off. Hold it a little bit, that blows the horn. Now, prop 5 is the wave player in Godzilla. So short is Godzilla, long is the wave player. And it remembers what track it's playing when you turn it off. So I actually just put on the other end a quick flip one way, and it'll just skip to the next track. I could also show you how many things you can do in each position, because this is where it gets really complicated. So any of the additional sounds you have, you can trigger it. Outputs are the ribbon cable, so like all of your lights. Output sequence is maybe it plays a sound, turns on a light, and moves a servo, or moves 2 servos, or again, just really depends on what you have programmed at. Light switch plus and minus is how I turn the lights on and off. You can also set it so turn your parking lights on, Turn your low beam on, so you can turn any light on or off basically with every channel you have available to you. Locomotive driving light, ship at anchor, ship at ground, ship in operation. I don't know what any of that does because I don't have a ship. And then servos for the light module, servos. Engine sound on and off, random sound enable. That's if you don't want it randomly playing sounds, you can just turn that off. You can also adjust the volume of not of each function, but just the sound volume overall from the light kit from your radio if you want. You can mute it, just mute the engine. Play with throttle, don't know what that means. Multifunction, I believe, is actually if, again, you just want it to do a lot of things at one time. Wave player, play stop, pause, track forward, track reverse, track random. And again, you can do all of those in any position you want. Since I don't have that many channels, that's where we're at. Hypnotic multi-switches, again, depends on the radio you have. Control pad, if you actually have a control pad. Inputs, outputs. Now, outputs are for the ribbon cable. That's how I have mine wired up. We can go over here to the grand hauler. On the grand hauler, brown is the reverse light. On the 53, it's parking lamps. So it's actually all of the marking lights on the bed. Clearance lights, depending on what you want. Third marker, left, right. And then you can actually change its intensity depending on what lights are on it. So since it's a park light, when it's on and just static, it's dim. When it goes turn signal mode, it goes brighter. Combined headlight. I don't know why it has 3 levels, but first is 0. And then option 1 is 50% and then 100% light out. Reverse light. Combined American rear. Because again, there's a lot of outputs you can put on here. Combined American is because we don't use different colors for turn signals on trucks. Some trucks have an amber turn signal, and then a lot of people just have red across the whole back of the truck. So the Combined American means it does park, running lights, whatever you want to call them, park or running lights, brake light, and turn signal. So it does all 3 functions off of one LED. Bending light, I believe, not 100%. Leave a comment below if you actually know what it is. But I think bending lights are over in Europe. So when you turn the turn signal on, it actually turns a auxiliary light on. And I've actually seen one on like a garbage truck. So when you turn the turn signal on, it actually has bumper mounted lights angled off at an angle. So you get bright light shining down where you're turning, so you don't have to wait for your headlights to get over to see stuff. You got daytime running, park, low beam, high beam, front fog, rear fog, which is weird to me. Although, for instance, on the 53, a rear fog light, I have just a white LED light bar. I could wire that into that and basically have it as a work lamp. Brake light, reverse light, left and right. Universal outputs via sound, prop multi-switch, static on or off, flashing, pulse, flickering, smoke generator heater, smoke generator fan. Light bulb effect, I believe, is just it flickers when you start if the lights are on. And you can have up to 16 outputs. And apparently the USM has the 17th output. I don't know. That's the first difference I've actually really noticed. Output light options. Light flickering when starting. Light bulb effect is medium. Since it's off, I don't actually need to change that, but you can have how intensely they flicker when you turn on. I particularly like having the brake lights on anytime the vehicle's stationary. And then you can change how long it'll remain on. Emergency braking light while heavy braking. Hazard warning lights automatically on after emergency braking light. Threshold. Hazard light. You can actually have it kit on the hazard lights or the flashers when backing up. You can change how many flashes the indicator has. Automatic indicator lights while turning. American indicator mode. And then you can actually set the threshold for how much steering input you put in before the indicators come on. So if you're like just trying to track straight, you're not getting a blink every time you move the car, which is aggravating as hell. Daytime running lights, reverse light and reverse warning only when driving, not when stationary. It has the Xeon HID effects. You can have it just, again, depending on how many channels you have, how many things you want to mess with. Parking light and low beam headlight always on when engine sound is on, or when engine sound 2 is on. Ship operations. I don't know anything about ship operations, so can't comment on what that wants to do. Smoke generator always on when engine is on. Trailing smoke generator fan. Light switch. So you can change how many steps the light switch actually functions. And I just have it set to 4. So reversing light possible is all the time. Brake lights all the time. Indicator all the time. Parking lights stay on through all cycles. And again, the light bar on the 53 doesn't have its own switch. So that's why high beam, then the light bar comes on. And then again, same steps backwards. Output sequences. I haven't really messed with that. Servo outputs. Now, servo sequences is it moves, then it stays there for however many milliseconds you tell it to. Then it moves through positions. I have on both trucks, it'll be set up the same. Activate servo input 1. Home position is basically neutral. And since I don't need it to be centered, position 1 is over here, and position 2 is the other way. Position 2 is all the way up, position 1 is dropped, and I don't have it set so the servo does full travel, because it actually picked the axles up off the ground a little bit. The tires would be up a little bit. So I adjusted that so the axles just kind of stayed in contact with the ground. Because I noticed on the regular Red Cat servo or radio, because of how fast it does full speed throw, it'd almost kind of hop up because the axles would hit, then it'd push up instead of just already sitting on it and then raising. You can adjust the speed. You can extend the servo, how much further motion you get. Automatically return to home position if no position is selected. Can only be changed when standing. I'm guessing that means when the vehicle is stationary. Sound at servo moment, and then direct control with your props. 100%. Function sequences, again, this depends on what you need. This is way above whatever anything I'm going to do. Light module. Not sure on this one. And you can put notes. Yeah, as you can see, there's just so much stuff you can do. You can do digital mode, mix mode, analog mode, servo output for digital servos, record diagnostic data, Craftwork Easy Bus. Again, not sure what that is. volumes, direct volume control, battery type. You can select your battery, so it'll do voltage monitoring. At voltage, turn sound off. At under voltage, turn all the outputs off. That way, if you're driving and your sound shuts off, and then your lights quits off, you know you're at a low voltage. Multifunction. Again, just there's so much to do. It's really kind of nuts. And you can also control stuff Bluetoothly or through a Bluetooth. Almost forgot about that. Curves, I'd imagine. Steering angle limit at stationary, steering angle limit at top speed. So I suppose if you have a very top-heavy vehicle, you could actually program it so you don't get full steering lock when you're at full speed, so you don't tip it over. Or, I don't know. Just, like I said, it does so many things I don't think a lot of people would even think of programming in that, yeah, it is quite complex. And let's go here to go back to the sounds. And I don't have since I don't have it plugged in. Okay, USB 2 is the program cable, I believe. YouTube converter. I don't know why you need a YouTube converter when it comes with Audacity, because you could just go to YouTube, hit record, then hit play on YouTube, and then record whatever is coming out your speakers. So, and this is how the files are labeled in English. I mean, for the most part. The sounds themselves, it really depends on what it is. And then you can have it preview the sound before you actually hit OK. But I think you actually have to play something. So let's go. Yeah, Dixieland Dukes of Hazzard horn. We'll just put it in warm start for shits and grins. Since we played one thing, now it'll preview it. Kind of weird. Which sounds like a gear change to me.
Achtung, Überstrom erkannt.
Yeah, don't know what that means because high school German was a long time ago. I do know Octune is attention. That's it. But you have Mercedes, Land Rovers, Auto V8. It's kind of weak sauce. So yeah, a lot of the sounds duplicate. Neighbor Bagger. Don't even know what that is. All right, that was interesting. There's Volvo, Mercedes bus, Focke-Wulf 190 is a plane, I believe. Huey. So helicopters. Some kind of caterpillar. Some kind of very loud caterpillar. Yeah, no idea. So again, there are tons of sounds you don't. Panzers, So tons of tank sounds. Schiff, I'm guessing, are ships, especially since there's the Bismarck. Tractor. You got John Deere 8530 and 8254. 8245R, because hard. Some more tractors. Then you get into trucks. And it does actually have Detroit diesel. Obviously, since it's Detroit, it takes forever to start. Even the warm start's kind of slow. I'm not a fan of Detroit's, so some gear change sounds. There's the airbag. Airbag sounds again. Nice reverb in that. Let's see here. Of course, you got the Kenworth. I'm guessing probably a Caterpillar. Let's see here. We got Mac, Man, Scanias, some Unimogs, Volvo. Just absolutely tons of sounds. There's even a Harley in here somewhere. I forget where. Panzers. Yeah. Harley Davidson. Not seen too many motorcycles with sound kits, so it's interesting that they put that on there. But again, you just so much programmability in these things, and they're not cheap. They're a little on the pricey side. USM was right around 200. The SFR, because I kind of bought a package deal that came with some LEDs. Pardon me. Speaker, a little over 300. The biggest things with these, though, are they are not waterproof and they are not water resistant, which is weird since they can be on a ship. So you definitely want to make sure if you're using either one of these, you're not submerging the vehicle, not getting snow packed in the things, stuff like that. That's going to do it for this video. It's not a real great tutorial. It's just kind of more of an overview because I'm still playing and learning with it myself. But as easy as it is to transfer data if you have the transfer cable, if you don't like it, just plug it in and adjust things. Just have fun with it. Hope and James can help me do some filming a little later today. So that's going to do it for this video. Be sure to click like and subscribe so you can see more RC stuff and full-size stuff eventually. The 53 is kind of the focus here for a little bit. The Grand Hauler will get put back together. I need to make some adjustments to some 3D print files and go through programming all of its lights and sounds. So it'll be in an upcoming video. And then I'm going to get some more materials and restart the trailer build for it eventually too. So lots of stuff planned, just kind of depends on how fast I can get parts for. So we'll catch you in the next one.